Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Guys, welcome back to our /EntitledPeople, where people truly believe that they can do what they want, when they want, without a care in the world. And in today's episode, oh my goodness, you guys are in for a roller coaster of a ride. Because when I was shared these stories, my jaw dropped reading them. We've got relationships getting destroyed in this one. I hope you guys enjoy the stories. Try not to shake your heads too hard. And as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. Let's dive in. So, do I have a post for you? I have a daughter of 10 months. I'm a 30-year-old female, and my best friend, who's a 31-year-old female, have always been super close, and she's helped me a lot during my pregnancy and after childbirth. So it always came naturally for me to ask her for help. She became some kind of nanny for my daughter when needed. She's always been super eager and happy to help, since she's got no children of her own. She had a miscarriage in the past, and she stopped trying afterwards. So with that said, we were at a mutual friend's wedding last week, and I was holding my daughter for quite some time since she hates strollers. That's when my best friend came up to me and she offered to take her for a while so that I could have a break and go chat with some friends. I agreed and wholeheartedly thanked her. After about 20 minutes or so, I come back to where we were and she wasn't there. So I start looking for her in the garden and she was literally nowhere to be found. Finally, after another 10 minutes, I managed to find her, and I see her talking to some people while holding my baby, with her one breast shoved down my daughter's throat. Now, seeing that, I literally tried my best to keep my composure and to not scream. So I went to her and said, "We need to talk." After reaching a quiet place, I yelled, "What the F is wrong with you? Why are you nursing my daughter?" She then looked at me in disbelief, and she replied that she understood that it was the best way to calm my daughter, and there's nothing wrong with it. She even added that she practically could be her daughter. Of course, hearing that, I'm thinking, what the F? I was so shocked, but we couldn't keep up the conversation because we had to get back inside for the wedding cake. I told her that we would have to continue the discussion later. We never did, as the wedding got really busy, so we decided on a time and place. Honestly, I was so effing mad. My life basically revolved around this until the day after, where we met up to talk. I had so many questions. Like, why would she have to do that? I didn't even effing know what to tell her without raging at her. And on top of that, how could she say that there was nothing wrong with it? I feel like she violated my daughter and she gave 0 Fs about it. I was literally gonna hit this woman. So the day after, we met up and talked. I let her talk first. She then explained that my daughter was restless while she was talking to a couple of women, and they said maybe she was hungry, and it was fine for them to keep talking while she was breastfeeding, so she did. I just went straight to the point. I said what she did was completely effed up. There was no excuses. She then told me that she didn't agree, and she did nothing wrong. She then said that she tried everything in the past and nothing had ever worked except for her breasts. That was the only thing that ever calmed my daughter down, so she just did what she always had done. And hearing that, I could not believe it. I asked her what was wrong with her for doing such a thing behind my back, and why the F among all things did she think that she could dry nurse my daughter? She then replied back saying that she was doing what she thought was best for my baby, and doing what my daughter wanted. And she even added that she didn't think to inform me of such a thing since she's quite a second mom to her as we're best friends. The whole time she was talking, I was losing it, but she continued. She then added that she wasn't actually dry nursing her since a while ago, after using pumps and dry nursing my daughter, she started to lactate a little. Like, I could not believe what this woman was saying. She then said that the supply was still low, but in a while, I could leave breastfeeding to her and stop doing it and worrying about it. And y'all, I was livid. But she didn't even realize. She was completely clueless, absorbed in her own world, not even realizing what she did was wrong. So I stood up from the table and I told her she was completely insane and that she was creeping me out. I then told her that she wasn't allowed near my daughter anymore and to never contact me again, or I would report everything to the police. I even said I don't care if we've had over 2 decades under our belts, it's done. At that, she then starts crying, saying I couldn't cut her off from our daughter's life. So I just lost it. I shouted, it's not her baby. It was me who popped her out. It was me who was pregnant for 9 months and she's my daughter, not hers. And then I left. I'm just completely shocked, and I don't even think shocked can completely describe what I'm feeling. I have received a couple of texts from her begging to reconsider it and asking to see my daughter. I told her to stop contacting me and then blocked her. I told her if I receive another message or call or anything like that, I will report everything to the police. I'm just disgusted. Like, she was my best friend. Like, why would she do something like this? I'm completely speechless. I want to puke. Update number 1. The next day. So after trying for most of last evening to contact me on social media, this morning she shows up at my front door. I told her she needed to leave because even though I despise her right now, I don't want to call the police on her. She then starts babbling why I was treating her this way and why I was keeping her away from my daughter, since she did absolutely nothing wrong. I just told her that everything she did was wrong because she did all of this behind my back without even asking me. I told her that she can't be her mother, and she can't take over as the only one breastfeeding. It's just delusional even thinking something like this. She just responded, saying that my daughter needs her breast and that her milk is good for my baby. Now, if this wasn't enough, she then said that she was worried because my breasts are too small to feed her properly, and to please stop being selfish and start thinking about what's really good for my daughter. She then concluded, saying she was fine with me breastfeeding her until she reached a sufficient supply. But after that, I should leave the responsibility to her if I wanted my daughter to grow healthy. Now, she was talking really loud, and I guess my daughter was startled because she starts crying, and she took it as a sign that my daughter was calling for her. She only left when I called the police, saying that I shouldn't treat her like this and that she's only doing what's best for my daughter. And guys, I'm just done. I can't take this anymore. I contacted a mutual friend and I told her everything, emphasizing that she needs help. She agreed to talk to her and see what's going on. In the meantime, I'm going to the police and I'm filing a restraining order. And I'll talk to the pediatrician as soon as possible. I can't live peacefully like this, and I'm starting to get worried for my daughter. She's been my best friend for more than 20 years, and she's been with me nearly every day before and after childbirth. We were inseparable up until this point. It's wrecking me. Update number 2. So, I came back home this morning after spending the night at a nearby hotel. I didn't feel safe staying alone in my house since she had a copy of my keys. Even if I have a surveillance system, I didn't want to take the risk. The first thing I did when I came back was calling an emergency locksmith. I explained the situation and they arrived and they did the job swiftly. I felt so much safer knowing she can't get in anymore. I did check the house, but it was exactly as I left it yesterday. And after checking the doorbell cameras, I was sure she didn't pay me a visit, thank goodness. I also informed my close neighbors what happened, and they were understanding and helpful. I then met up with a mutual friend, and she updated me on the talk she had with her. Well, she went to her house to talk with her. My best friend greets her, and they start chatting a little before inviting her in. So far, so good, until they sit down, and that's when my best friend asked her if they could keep talking while she pumped, because she needs to get her supply running. Our mutual friend just played dumb, saying it wasn't a problem, but then she asked why she needed to pump if she doesn't have children. She just replied back saying that she indeed has a daughter, and that she was surprised I didn't tell the mutual friend about it. She then pointed out that it was my daughter, and even if she didn't give birth to her, she still considers my daughter as her baby too, and that she needed mama's milk to grow healthy, referring to her milk. She then kept going on saying she had no choice, and that I was being sassy and inconsiderate, and I wasn't letting her breastfeed our baby. Mutual friend told me that she couldn't believe what she was hearing, and that she couldn't believe all of this was true. But what shocked her the most was the fact that she was indeed lactating. She wasn't producing much, but she was indeed pumping breast milk. Mutual friend tried to talk to her, but it was no use. She wasn't listening. After a while, she just said there was nothing wrong in what she was doing, and that she was just being a good mother. I honestly wasn't surprised hearing all of that, but it's still very, very depressing. She was completely shocked, and she couldn't understand what happened, since apart from this, she seemed completely normal. I then asked her to accompany me to the police, and unfortunately, there's no extremes yet to file for a restraining order, not even a temporary one. According to what they told me, where I live, we need solid proof of harassment, stalking, etc. and the surveillance tapes and texts, the only things I have, don't show harassment or evidence that she's stalking me or being dangerous. The only thing I could file was a formal complaint of what happened, and I did that. They told me that they'll keep an eye on the situation and they'll check my neighborhood more frequently to be sure nothing happens. That's it for now. The mutual friend will stay at my house for a couple of days to help me recover from what happened, also to wait for my parents to arrive. I also booked an appointment with a pediatrician and I'll get my daughter checked next week. I need to get my stuff together. I need to plan what to do next and to take care of my daughter. Fortunately enough, my parents are coming to help me and I'm really relieved. Yeah, so this post was one of the wildest ones I've read this week. And I completely agree with OP. Her friend has totally entered the land of delusion and she needs help. But yeah, I've read a few stories like this where some people just snap after a traumatic event, like a miscarriage or finding out they can't have kids. So I'm not really surprised this happened. But guys, I am not gonna lie, the breastfeeding thing had my jaw on the floor. Like, what in the world, right? But yeah, with that said, that's one way to end a 20-year friendship real quick. I just hope things go well for OP from here on out. And guys, I don't want to sound pessimistic, but from all the stories I've read, I can't see it ending well at all. So yeah, I'm betting she will show up at OP's place another time and try to feed her baby. Guys, let me know your thoughts though. In my opinion, OP needs to go completely no contact and even look at maybe moving to a new location. Just keep her life totally hidden from her bestie. And if you think that was a roller coaster of a ride, listen to this next post. So here's the story. My wife is 8 months pregnant with our child. We live next to another married couple who are in their late 30s. And I don't like the guy. The guy's arrogant, smug, entitled, and I found him to be invasive, and he's the weird type of friendly that almost seems to be prying and clingy. I'm not sure if that's clouding my judgment here, or if this has validated my beliefs about him. So the day this happened, I left for work, and I decided on the way there that I wasn't feeling it, and I called it off. I then stopped to pick up breakfast before heading home to surprise my wife. 40 minutes tops. I get home, enter from the back door, and here's my wife and neighbor sitting in our living room on the couch. She's turned towards him, fully clothed, but she has her shirt pulled up over her very pregnant stomach, while he's facing her and rubbing lotion on her stomach with both hands. Seeing me, they both froze before my wife asked how come I was back. She then said Jeff, not his real name, stopped by to borrow my toolbox while I was moisturizing, and then he wanted to know if he could feel the baby. So I said okay. At that, I was mad. I told him to get out before I put him out, and he left immediately. I tried to stay calm and talk to her, and to get the whole story. I then find out that Jeff's wife is apparently infertile. It's also the first I've heard of it, which is amazing, considering the guy never shuts up about his life. He just wanted to feel the baby. That's her story and she's sticking to it. That's not good enough for me. My thought process is there's a big effing difference between feeling a baby for 10 seconds and coming into our home and rubbing lotion on my wife's stomach. Like, if it was some close friend of ours, I might understand, and still, that's a hard might. But I dislike the guy, and my wife has never expressed any sort of closeness to him, aside from passing pleasantries, and she's not the type to let anyone she's not close to put their hands on her. So in the span of a day, the guy goes from being a distant acquaintance of hers at best, to her deciding to invite him in and let him rub her pregnant stomach. I also find it convenient that he showed up that early, right after I went to work, very shortly after his own wife also left for work. And here's the thing. The guy's never come over asking to borrow anything of mine before. Yet at 9:30 in the morning, he urgently needs a toolbox. I don't believe my wife, and this is the first time my trust in her hasn't been strong enough. I don't believe her story because it makes absolutely no sense. When I told her that I'd be mentioning this to his wife, she was adamant that I don't, as to, quote, not make it more than what it is. Like, if it was innocent, what more is there to make? And even if there's nothing more going on, I'm not okay with what I've seen. I'm not okay with him rubbing my unborn child in my home without me there. I know it's her body and her choice, but again, I'm not okay with this. Like, it would be one thing to feel the baby kick, but he was sitting reclined comfortably on our sofa, rubbing lotion on her, with both of them leaned in to a private conversation. I'm trying really hard to figure out how to express the fact that I don't believe her story without causing stress that would be dangerous for her or our baby. I don't want to pick a fight with her at this stage of her pregnancy, but at the same time, my mind is spinning and I'm not cool with what happened. Any advice would be appreciated. Update. So this will be my only update. So with that, my wife stuck to her story. She apologized for making me uncomfortable and she assured me it wouldn't happen again. Jeff decided to leave a handwritten note in the mailbox, specifically apologizing as well. I still didn't feel better, and the consensus was that I should speak to my neighbor's wife, who we're gonna call Sally, so that's what I did. I watched my neighbor leave for work, and then called my mother-in-law to come take my wife for a lunch date. I left as usual for work, and I called it off again and went to stay with a friend. I then get a text from my wife around noon telling me she was with mother-in-law, and she would be back by dinner. I then went home and knocked on Sally's door. Well, Jeff decided to tell Sally that I kicked him out and caused the scene about not wanting either of them speaking to us anymore, because I was pissed about him helping my wife. I find out that both Sally and Jeff have been going to my house while I was away busy for the past few weeks, as my wife had approached her and asked if they would be willing to lend a hand with chores. Sometimes Sally went over and she did small things or just hung out. Sometimes they both came and sometimes just Jeff. Wife had told Sally that I knew, and I was fine with it, and that's why she was confused when her husband told her his BS about me being mad. She then showed me where she texted my wife to clarify and ask if she was welcome over, and my wife hasn't replied. And since I don't see Sally often or socialize with them, she just assumed her husband was telling the truth. She also admitted that she noticed Jeff and my wife becoming fast friends, and figured it was due to the pregnancy. She thought it was his way of dealing with their own inability to have kids, so she wrote it off. I then told her what I walked in on. I told Sally about the tools, which ended up being BS too. We then came to the same conclusions, and we both cried, both hugged for the first time, and both took turns denying and accepting and talking each other down. We also took a walk around the block together and conspired. She had planned to call Jeff at work and say that my wife messaged her, confessing to the two of them having an affair, and seeing what happened. So with that, I went back to my friends. I started having major panic attacks, thinking I messed up and I was about to ruin my marriage, worrying I might be wrong. A little bit later, I get a call from my wife, screaming at me to find a way to leave work and to come home. So I go home. Jeff had called her telling her what Sally told him. My wife then said that I was crazy, that I was a piece of crap, and she was considering leaving me. She pulled everything on me. Meanwhile, I was having a panic attack, thinking that I just ruined my entire life over nothing, while also trying to calm her down for the baby's sake. Impulsively, I told her if she's leaving, that I'd be requesting a DNA test, and that's when it all came down. Her entire tone changed. She began pleading, begging, apologizing, hyperventilating, and holding me, asking me how I found out while denying anything happened. I told her it would be okay, and asked if she would talk to me if we went for a drive. She agreed, so I take us to a parking lot and we talked. I told her if there's any chance of anything happening, she needs to tell me what was happening because I already knew a lot. She then let it all out. She told me she had slept with Jeff a handful of times before she was pregnant, and our baby might not be ours, and here's where it gets ridiculous. She then told me that Jeff had decided that he needs to get involved, and he's been coming by for months and doing daddy duties just in case the baby is his and not mine. She also confessed they haven't slept together in months, if that even matters at all. She then said that we could move away, that it's ours no matter what, and that he manipulated her. My wife then admitted that she lied to Sally to justify Jeff going over for daddy duties. I asked her if she would stay with mother-in-law for a few days while I calmed down. She agreed, so I take her home, packed some stuff, and dropped her off. I've cleaned out my essentials and I'm in a friend's basement. My friend called her on my behalf and told her if the baby's mine, I'll be dealing with it. But if it isn't, she's on her own. But either way, I'll be filing for divorce. My friends took my phone from me and they deleted my social media. And she's been calling my friends and they've been telling her to F off. I also spoke to my boss and he's been very understanding. The last I heard from Sally, Jeff hasn't been home and he stopped responding to her texts and phone calls. Me, I have nothing left. In less than a week, my life has fallen apart, and the only thing keeping me here is the small chance that the baby's mine. I have nothing else. I'm praying for the first time in my life that I can stop feeling this way and to find strength. Update number 2. The first few weeks after my last update were extremely difficult, with friends and family on both sides adding to the drama. My wife and I agreed to sit down and discuss things after she was discharged, but we had to do it in my friend's basement with my friend upstairs in case I needed the support. My wife came over and we basically said everything we needed to say. I just exploded and I said a lot of mean stuff, most of which I regret, some I don't. She spent the whole time apologizing and begging me to take her back, to give our family a chance to survive everything that happened. She says I owe it to our baby. This went on for about an hour like this, until I accepted that there was nothing left to say and I have zero romantic love for her anymore. She accepted that we need to focus on our daughter above all else. We were agreeing to figure out a custody split and to eventually co-parent more actively together when the wounds heal, but our marriage is officially over. My wife has the potential to be a wonderful mother, but she failed me as a wife. And my sole focus right now is how to get myself mentally to where I need to be the best father possible. We plan to eventually sell the home, but right now, I'm staying in an apartment. Sally's also leaving Jeff. He's apparently staying with his mother, and he's refused to speak to Sally directly. According to Sally, the last thing that was passed along to her is that he understands what he did, and that he's sorry he hurt her, and that he loves her, and he won't contest a divorce. She's struggling to handle everything, and she lacks a support system. So we're developing a friendship, mostly two wounded people leaning on each other, and I'm doing my best. She plans to start therapy too, and no, I don't plan on being anything more than friends with Sally. She's a lovely woman, but no. I also know that there's a lot left to do, and a lot of hurting left to go through, but I'm stable, and a dad. That's what matters the most. What a mess that was, right? And honestly, I only wish the baby wasn't OP's so he could get a clean break away from his ex-wife. Like the audacity for her to cheat on him and then to turn it around to say that OP needs to take her back to give their family a chance. Like, what kind of BS is that, right? Well, maybe you should have thought about that before messing around with Jeff. And don't even get me started on Jeff coming over and doing his daddy duties, just in case the kid was his. Like, jaw-dropping, guys. And this person comments, that's one of the stupidest cover stories I've ever heard. I mean, y'all got caught red-handed. Just say, yeah, you caught us. And the neighbor dude put an apology in his mailbox. I would lose my lid. The balls on these people. And this person says, as bad as I feel for OP, my heart breaks for Sally. Imagine, not only your husband cheating and possibly impregnating your neighbor while you're dealing with infertility, but also him taking you over to her house to do chores for her while he plays daddy. That's seriously effed up. I hope she's doing a lot better these days. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /EntitledPeople. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's wild stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy, crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's in our /EntitledPeople episode, another one, where Karen teachers are getting destroyed by students. Guys, go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.